Hey guys, Saga here, and I'm gonna tell you what I did with my day. So first I woke up, did some unimportant things, then I played some competitive, and while I was playing competitive, I finally made the decision that it's time. Then I learned some Swedish. This is relevant, stay with me. I looked up a chart with all of the pro sensitivities, all of their DPI adjustments, and I decided to switch to what my favorite player plays at, Seagull. And I switched my mouse DPI to 800, and I switched my in-game sensitivity to 7. What this results in is a much, much slower experience moving the mouse than what I'm used to. So let me show you what I'm used to. These are my original settings. This is what I was used to playing Overwatch on, and I was shooting at over 50% accuracy with most characters, and I was pretty decent with this sensitivity. But now it feels, it feels actually terrible after playing a whole day at Seagull settings. So here, let me show you what a 360 looks like. You see how little I move that mouse? Now this is with Seagull settings. This is a 360 from the same point. You ready? It's not just the sensitivity either. I mean, honestly, the sensitivity, your brain gets used to it. It takes a couple hours, and during those hours, you can actually feel the strain on your brain trying to compensate for the different speed than what you're used to and what's already built in. But beyond that, the main difficulty and the thing that I had the most trouble breaking, and I'm still working to fully break it as this is only the first day of switching to extremely low sensitivity, is how you hold the mouse and what you're supposed to do with that. So with really high sensitivity, you hold the mouse like this. So if we set it back to super high, you're at the edge of your desk where your mouse pad is, and your wrist sits on the edge of the desk. I know it's a little hard to see, but it's sitting on the edge of the desk. And you use this as the pivot point to make your calculations. So it's all very small movements. However, when you start playing with your whole arm, I had to adjust my mouse pad. I moved it over here. Actually, I started over here because this seemed right to me. But then I realized I actually didn't have the full range of motion on the mouse pad. And I moved it over here by itself. Originally, all of this stuff that was over here was over here. I had to move it to clear this area for the cord to move freely. After that, I adjusted my seat so it was a little higher. And I started putting my mouse more centered. Yeah, let me switch to the new settings. Starting putting my mouse more centered. And I started to try to get used to making the larger movements. I find that this is actually the harder part. When your brain starts to adjust after an hour or two, and you'll start to get used to the small movements, and it gets totally doable. And because small movements are still done with a wrist pivot, right? You're moving the mouse, you're aiming really carefully, and then you put your wrist down. But the large movements are done by your entire arm, and this is very difficult because now your elbow is the pivot point as opposed to your wrist. And this is really a repetitive narrative for me in my life. When I started playing Third Strike, which I was very good at, I actually learned first on a Xbox controller, and that was a terrible idea. Of course, I didn't know better at the time. That learning on a Xbox controller was, it's even funny because now controllers are becoming more accepted, but back when I did it, everybody played on arcade sticks. So I would go to a tournament, and the tournaments would be in an arcade. I remember I went to Chinatown Fair once to play some Third Strike, and I remember losing to somebody that I could have beaten in my sleep if I was only playing on a controller, and that's the day I made the decision to switch to an arcade stick. And I really feel like this is an equivalent change, going from an incredibly high DPI to an incredibly low one. I know high DPI is what I'm used to, I know I'm good at high DPI, but I also realize that there are limits to high DPI, and it's the same as there's limits to controllers in fighting games. There are certain techniques like drumming that you can't do on a controller, or certain cancels that are made easier, and there's all kinds of different advantages to different kinds of gates on arcade sticks, but we're not going to get into that. My point is, even if you're really good at something and you really like how you got there, you have to realize that if, everyone else is doing it slightly differently, there might be a reason for that. And there also might not, but if you find out that there is. So for me, the reason is I'm having trouble tracking. So when I play characters like McCree, I can flick easily to headshots and flick to the body and things like that. But I'm having trouble tracking with tracking characters like 76 and like Tracer. And I want to be able to play those characters well. And the reason I can't is because when I make a small movement on my mouse, it makes a big movement. And where you can compensate for that by characters that take, one shot, then another shot, then another shot, you can't do that when it's a continuous spray of bullets. So you know what you're thinking, how did that learning Swedish relate to anything we've talked about? In a way, language learning is a reprogramming of your brain. You're trying to do something that you already know how to do, express meaning, but you're now using different tools to do it. And this change in mouse setting and learning a totally new way to hold and use the mouse is like teaching yourself a new language. So the key is, it takes time. You cannot learn a language quickly. It has to be done. It's painful. There will be days where you want to quit, where you want to go back to using your other language, but this is definitely, stay with it. There's a reward at the end of the rainbow. Do it. So if you're in my boat too and you're playing on a wrist pivot and you want to play this game seriously and you want to be able to isolate those headshots and track well, I highly recommend you make the change sooner rather than later, so you can spend all that time building, good muscle memory, good things like that, and getting used to pivoting on the elbow. If you want a link to that chart, I'm going to leave it in the description. If you guys like my content, please subscribe. I'll see you later.
Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Been trying to get a hold of you all night. We haven't talked in months, but that's alright. Was wondering if you wanted to go for a drive. I just need some fresh air and an old friend. I'm so glad that we started talking again. Yo, turn up the radio, I love this song. Remember when we used to stay up all night long? How's it been going? Oh, how's it, mom? The roads are so empty, this is so damn calm. If we stick on the highway, we can drive all night long. If it's fine by you, I'll take the passenger seat. We can drive